Hey, this is Doug Giles. Welcome to Warriors and Wildmen podcast. I'm kicking it here with my good buddy Rich, a couple of old sinners talking about important things. Rich, how you doing?
Doug, what's happening? Doug.
My best friend
been killed
Doug.
by some crystal meth tweakers.
Then we're all shit out of luck. Hey, that's my favorite song.
Then
man.
I'm gonna give him a best friend hug.
You know, we ought to get a song for you. I was thinking about this the other day, and the only song that I know that has Rich in it is Daryl Hall and John Oates. You're a rich girl.
No matter what, it's not going to work. Anything by Daryl Hall and John Oates will not define me, describe me in any way whatsoever. I reject your offer.
Oh, well. Well, enough of our foolishness. Thanks for listening to our podcast. We got a dicey topic. We're continuing from last week. We're talking about impacting bad environments. Yeah. Guess what? God promised not a rose garden. He promised tribulation. Said you're going to go through hell.
Yep.
Jesus promised hurricanes, storms. Some of them can be cultural ones, Rich, that last for what? 8 decades? Oh, my God. Jesus doesn't love us.
Hey, Doug, you know the whole personal Jesus, and I also obviously have a relationship with Jesus. That's what we teach. We know that. But when you think your life is the center of the universe, you are freaking crazy, because entire generations were spent in slavery. So what about that person? You know what? Right. They were a part of history. Check this out. All things work together for good. Romans 8:28. For those that love God and are called according to his purpose. So long as his purpose is your purpose, your life is going to fit in the story somewhere. I wonder where it's going to be. But it's definitely, we're talking about Daniel and Shadrach, Meshach, and a bad Negro. And these guys are awesome. So we're talking about how they stood up against. Why are you shaking your head at me?
I thought it was my shack, your shack, and away we go.
Oh, that's nice. I like that. Anyway, these 3 guys were standing up against a culture. 3 young guys, and then Daniel, maybe a little bit older than them, but not much. But these are young people standing against a culture, making a difference. That's what we need today. Yeah,
and it was a very bad culture. Everybody's like, man, I ain't never seen anything like this ever before. We got all this superfluity and naughtiness, all this devil and all the Kathy Griffin and Playboy and blah, 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 blah. Bad politicians, and the rapture must be the end of the world, man. Must be the end of the world.
Rapture practice.
You got your rapture ticket? Well, it's about to get punched. Jesus is going to become surfing on that cloud coming from the east. Hey, guess what, folks? In Daniel's day, it didn't happen. And you know what, Queequeg? It might not happen in your day. So, what do you do when you're saddled with a sucky culture that not only is kind of disdainful of your faith, they absolutely do everything in their power to drown it out and to mitigate it and to make you look like a fool.
Compromise it.
You got 3 options as far as I can tell. Here's your options. You can absorb the culture, be a little Christian chameleon.
Tofu.
You can be a sponge to the cultural super soaker. Number 2, you can separate from it, get a little Christian ghetto, live in some spiritual biosphere on the sidelines of life.
Be a monk in a monastery, lose your influence in society, and be super holy, and the devil wins.
Yeah, have an us versus them mentality, spiritual xenophobia. Yeah, that's what the Pharisees did, and I believe they ended up killing the Son of God. Or you can do what Daniel and his buddies did. What did they do? They infiltrated. They rocked the Casbah. Rich, that's the only option for a Christian that's worth his salt. And I believe Jesus Cristo, as we call him down in Miami, and as you call him over there in Arizona, and we're starting to call him that here in Texas as they flood up into the state. I believe he said that if you lost your saltiness, that you were good for nothing. Yes, he did. Put that on your refrigerator. And you were to be thrown out to the crap pile, or the manure pile, Doug, as he put it.
My Jesus would never say anyone was good for nothing.
Well, you got the wrong Jesus, man. You got some hoodoo voodoo Jesus that Paul talked about, I believe, in 2 Corinthians, said it's a different Jesus, and it's a different gospel, and you know what? You put up with it.
Hey, Doug, can you give us a quick rundown of what we're talking about, how these guys ended up in slavery in Babylon, and just give us a quick recap?
They disobeyed God. They completely flouted his prophets, didn't listen to the Decalogue. They completely blew him off. Now, they never lost the appearance of being the people of God, but inwardly, they were completely crap. Their motive wasn't to please him. Their motive wasn't his glory. And so, you know what God's like? It's like, how do I get people's attention? I could use frogs like I did in the Exodus. I could put some whopping big-ass tumors, some hemorrhoids in their butt like I did in one plague, but I've already done that. That's so yesterday, Holy Spirit. Jesus, what do you got? Jesus like, hey, man, hey, Dad, what about we drag them off with meat hooks into this wicked place called Babylon, and let's see if we can get them to listen to us after about, 70, 80 years of punishment. That's good stuff. That's the scene.
You just gave me a great quote.
Give it.
Is Babylon going to define you, or is it going to refine you? Come on, Doug.
Boom.
That'll preach right there.
Boom. So here it was, the king, unbeknownst to him, is selecting young people, yes, young people, not old people like Rich and I, to come and effectively topple his own kingdom that he's built.
Yep.
He doesn't know that God's utilizing him to select his own demise, and he's looking for young people, looking for love, Rich, in all the wrong places. He finds Daniel and his buddies, and they were selected because they were disciplined. And listen, young person, you can forget God using you. God will use anybody with all their imperfections as long as they take him and the culture they're in very seriously, and they align themselves to be utilized as a wicked, sharp threshing sledge in the hand of the Holy Spirit.
That's really good. You know what, Doug? This is something that I was thinking about when you were talking about how they ended up leaving God and being dragged into Babylon. A lot of Christians, they understand that Israel in the Old Testament is a picture of your personal life with the Lord and the trials that we go through and the different things. And a lot of people think, well, I would never renounce the Lord. You know, the Jews didn't either. They never did. They just compromised.
Right.
And they added other things. And they got distracted.
Yeah, and they became captives of the enemy.
They never said, we don't want God, now we're idolaters. They said, we want God and our idols. That's what Christians are guilty. Yeah, that's what Christians are guilty of today.
It's kind of like Voltaire. It says, God made man in his image, and man returned the favor and made a God in his image.
Exactly. And that's what it says in the Bible. I can't remember where the scripture is, but it says, you go out into the forest, you chop down a tree, you come back, and with your skill and craftsmanship, you carve it, overlay it with gold, and then you stand it up and lay down in front of it and say, you made me. That's pretty comical.
Now, you just described the American gospel enterprise.
There it is. But the problem is that most Christians think it doesn't apply to them because I still love the Lord. So did they. So did they. The difference between these guys that we're talking about, these young teenagers right here that are radical, they purposed in their heart not to defile themselves. It was the Lord only, not just the Lord also. That's the difference today. And that's the power of culture. We're not just absorbing and accepting everything in our culture, but we're saying, hey, that's not acceptable according to the Bible.
Here's another thing that I hope our listeners appreciate is before these guys were chosen to be utilized by Nebuchadnezzar, again, unbeknownst to him, they were stealth plants to shake his kingdom up. These guys were already disciplined. They weren't like, hey, man, God's going to use me. I got to get really serious right now. They were serious from the get-go. It's like Rich said, quoting Daniel 1, they were not just mildly disciplined. They frickin' blew everybody else away. Daniel said they were 10 times better than all the scrubs in Babylon and all the captives from Judah that were drug into Babylon. These kids were unique, man.
You threw me for a loop just now. Most time when people say something's Christian, we're supposed to expect it to be substandard.
Crap.
Here's some Christian music. So because we said it's Christian, you have to pretend to like it, even though it sucks.
It's pure shit.
Here's my Christian business, which because you're a Christian, you have to pretend to like it, even though I won't keep my word or do my job. These guys love God, and we're 10 times what did you say?
Better.
Did you say 10 times better?
Oh, yeah.
I want to slap somebody in the face right now.
They were better than all those. They had a spirit of excellence that eclipsed all the morons in Babylon. And listen, Babylon wasn't some slim, shady place. Their hanging gardens were one of the 8 wonders of the world.
Come on.
And these guys absolutely blew them away with their discipline and their behavior. So we talked about on the last podcast that it says that they were without defect, and we said that extrapolated into New Testament kingdom times is dealing with our bullcrap. Repent.
Yeah, that's right.
Get disciplined. Right. Jerk the slack out of yourself. Read books, get around people, watch movies, anything that makes you better. You got to do that, or you're not going to be in line to be used by God. We're not asking for perfection, just asking for seriousness. You got that, numbnuts? Oh, secondly...
You want me to read that list again?
Yeah, let's do it real quick.
Okay. So they ordered that they would include some of the royal family of the nobles, youth in whom there was no defect, who were good-looking, showing intelligence in every branch of wisdom, endowed with understanding and discerning knowledge, and who had the ability for serving in the king's court, and he ordered him to teach them literature and language of the Chaldeans.
Yeah.
There's your list.
That's a tall cup right there, man.
Yeah.
Now, young people, you want to impact culture instead of bitch about it from your little Christian ghetto, then you've got to take on these disciplines. Deal with your defects, and Rich, oh my God, this one's so delicious. It says they were good looking.
Uh-oh.
Did it say that?
It says that.
It said they look good.
Yep.
So here's my takeaway from that, Rich. Allow me to pick at the scab of the wound that I just placed upon the young listener's fragile Fabergé heart that is so delicate. You got to shape it up, man.
Come on.
Now, you're like, well, God, he judges my heart. He doesn't judge outward appearances.
If he's judging your heart, it's about to explode because of the cholesterol level.
But listen to, yeah, exactly. But listen to this, man. So to the numbnut that's like, God judges my heart. It doesn't matter. We're not talking about influencing God. He already loves you. We're talking about influencing culture. Culture thinks your ratty ass looks weird, and they're not gonna want you to come around them. I had this girl one time. She's like, I don't know why, man. People judge me. They're persecuting me. And I was like, well, why don't you wear a bra? You're walking around, you got like 40 triple D, you're flopping and flipping all over the place. Why don't you bleach your mustache? Why don't you dress appropriately? Why don't you bathe? You smell like a goat. What are you talking about? People are rejecting Jesus.
Doug,
they're rejecting your body odor.
We obviously know that good-looking people get jobs. All day long, they get hired. People can say whatever they want. They could say it's wrong, it's whatever. Now check this out. There's some things you can control. There's some things you can't control.
But
some people are just naturally. But here's the deal. I've seen people that would not be what somebody would say, hey, this is going to be a model, male or female.
Unless it's like sledgehammers or something.
Yeah. But you see people that take care of themselves, that are well-kept, groomed, dressed sharp. Hey,
that's what we're talking about.
Hey, Doug, they dress in style for their age. They're not like these pastors that are 50 years old wearing skinny jeans, looking like freaking idiots. But they dress in style for their age. They're clean. They have good posture. They have good manners. And here's another thing. I'm going to throw this. This is super controversial. Jesus makes people look good. I've seen people, when they're loving God, you're like, man, that's a beautiful girl. That guy, he's really nice looking. That's really good. And then you see them out in town and they're not serving God anymore. And you're like, whoa, you're hideous. You need all the help you can get. You need to get back to the altar. You know what I'm saying? You're ugly as sin on Sunday. Come on, somebody. You know what? Jesus makes everybody look better.
I like it when the people in these holiness sects tell the women, oh, it's a sin for you to wear makeup. I'm like, dude, it's a sin for some of them not to wear makeup.
Hey, come on. Even an old barn needs paint every once in a while. You know what? They wonder why all these religious guys, like in these super Pentecostal holiness churches, why they're all, the chicks have their hair in a bun and they're wearing these long skirts down to the ground and no makeup. And they wonder why all those guys are cheating on their wives.
Yeah, it's the same reason why Samson did. He's like, these girls in here, like, yikes.
Because
I like Delilah.
Look, there's Ethel looking ugly for Jesus.
Now, here's and what you said, man, I think it bears underscoring. We're not talking about you got to look like Brad Pitt. We're not talking about you got to be a girl in your Selma Hayek, Jennifer Aniston, Penelope Cruz, whomever. It's just shape it up, man. Get
That's
it in
it.
shape.
You know what,
don't have
Doug?
to-
You exercise every day.
Yeah,
You ride your mountain bike every day.
I try pretty much.
Yep. And here's the thing. Some people have good genetics. Like my dad literally does not drink water. He only drinks Pepsi. He's the same weight as when he came back from Vietnam. He's a freak of nature.
Right.
Apparently, I didn't get those genes. So
you gotta work it.
So I got to work it. And there's different times in my life where I'm thinner, and there's times where I'm just ridiculously fat. And you know what? I've never been fat and made an excuse. I've never been fat and thought it was okay. So what do? You got to work at it. So I'm not one of these people that's sitting here that can eat whatever I want and cheeseburgers and have a six-pack and hang out and be like, hey, you guys got to look good. You got to work at it. It's never okay. You got to get on it. You know what? That kind of discipline, some people are more easily disciplined in some areas, self-discipline, and some other areas are more difficult. Everybody has weaknesses and struggles. No matter what, you got to get on it. Everybody doesn't have to be a little tiny size 3 girls, because they have all this body shaming. Be the best that you can be for your body type. But let's get up on it, man. Let's look good.
Yeah.
I don't like guys that have this little tiny frame and then they're 280 pounds and they look like there's a person that's getting swallowed up by a tick.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'd really give some good thought to piercing your tongue or your nose or
tattoos,
your bottom lip. Yeah, I mean, it's so funny. These kids are like, hey, man, nobody will hire me, man. Everybody doesn't like me, Screw the man, screw the machine. It's like, dude, you set yourself up for failure doing that kind of stupid crap.
That's right.
Look,
and you know what, Doug?
I
got tattoos. I got tattoos. You don't have tattoos. I have tattoos, whole sleeve. I got other tattoos. And you know what? I have people say, what about you? You have tattoos. It's like, I'm not religiously against tattoos, but I'm not 20 years old trying to get a job and have a career.
Right. And
I got
your
those
profession,
way later.
Yeah, and your profession affords that. Those who rock and rollers, preachers, those who build custom bikes. But you know what? If you're going to come and clean my house, and you got 666 tattooed on your forehead, and your neck looks like a spider web, you can just pack your crap and leave.
Yeah, that's right.
Same thing with Clash Daily, man. I want somebody who looks sharp, solid, and smart.
That's right.
That's what God chose. So don't say, Doug and Rich, man, they're getting all carnal, man, and they're talking about, superficial things, man. That's what God chose. The king said, I'm not taking anybody to be around me that isn't keeping it together, looking sharp, solid, and smart. So suck on that.
So we could say this, Doug. We could say, do the best with what you got.
Exactly.
Do the best with what you got. Beyond that, we're not asking you to go out and get plastic surgery. Well, some of them. But just do the best with what you got.
If I ever get plastic surgery, I'm going to get calf implants, man. I don't know what. God gave me God gave me olive oil's legs.
I don't have legs, so.
Yeah. Hey, we got
somebody was telling somebody
minutes.
about me the other day. They said, man, he has a big nose, but he has big lips and big ears and a big head, so I guess it kind of works.
It's proportional. But you know what? It's proportional.
I have a clean nose.
It's easy to come in there and to pick it. Hey, we got 5 minutes left, Rich. I say we kick into the other discipline because it's muy importante, and we'll pick it up on the other side of this podcast. Daniel and his buddies, they were chosen by God. Again, we're recapping, little listener, because they dealt with their crap, they dealt with their defects.
Yeah.
Number 2, they were good looking. They shaped it up. They looked sharp. They looked solid. They weren't an embarrassment to hang around. They weren't somebody you're like, I don't want to take a Facebook pic with you. They were representing God, and so they looked good. Number 3, Rich, this is going to sting. Oh my God, it's going to cause blisters on the young person's butt. It says they were intelligent in every branch of wisdom. Please note, young person, didn't say they were on fire with the Holy Ghost. Didn't say that they could shake a tambourine. It didn't say that that they see angels when they pray. It says in every branch of wisdom, they were intelligent in.
Come on.
And here's something I really want to drive home. This one's going to hurt too. You might want to put on a cup for this one, young person, is that anti-intellectualism, when it comes to Christians, is a scandal and it's a sin.
Yep.
It's a scandal. Here's the reason why it's a scandal. Because you are giving a bad name to Christians by you sounding stupid when you open your mouth. Number two, it's a sin because remember Jesus' greatest commandments? Love the Lord your God with all your heart. Okay, I do that. All your soul. My soul loves him.
Here it
and
comes.
all your damn mind. All your mind. Every branch of wisdom. Now, you're a young person. You want God to use you. You're not running from the environment. You want to infiltrate it. You know what? You've got to start doing some fancy learning. You got to get into stuff that probably is not talked about with your dipstick Christian friends. And you've got to not only get intelligent in every branch of wisdom, but be 10 times better than that. And you know what? I guarantee you will be a mover and a shaker because readers are leaders, breeders, weeders, and feeders.
Come on, that's what I'm talking about. Doug, that's the deal right there. Now, I don't think, maybe in times past, the church pushed an anti-intellectualism, but I think with this generation, I think it's sheer laziness and goes back to the first thing, a lack of discipline. People, like my kids would ask me, Dad, how far is the sun from the earth? I would say, hey, you see that $700 phone in your hand? Ask it. You are connected to the internet.
And
I am not your internet. Look it up and read. Whenever I ask a question about anything, you probably see me do this all the time, Doug. I'm always on my phone. I'm not texting somebody. When you bring up something that I don't know about, or if I have a question, I look it up and I read it. If you want to be intelligent, you have to read. My kids will say, I never heard that saying before. That's because you don't read. They don't even say it now. They're like, I know I have to read. And here's what I tell people. If you want to stay stupid, don't read. People say, well, I have dyslexia and I have a... Good, then get a book on audio. Start paying attention. I don't even want to hear it.
And we got to wrap it up. My computer's about to crash. My battery's down, and we got 60 seconds.
What?
But here's something that I've got to parlay before we say adios, Rich. Loving God with our minds is not a question of orthodoxy or intellect. It's a question of this thing called love. If you really love God, you're really going to put that brain of yours to use. And because a lot of people say, well, if you really love God, you wouldn't get drunk, man. You wouldn't drive crazy, man. You wouldn't have a homo sapien relationship, man. It's like if you really love God, you'd use your mind. Guys, I gotta run. Thank you guys for listening to the podcast. Rich, say goodbye, good night, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Adios, guys. Go ahead and download the podcast. Make sure you subscribe and review. Tell us what you like and what you don't like. We'll talk about you live on the next Warriors and Wildmen. Godspeed.
Yeah, more Daniel stuff coming. More Daniel. See you, buddy.